Podcast A, and the Learn English on a Quiet Evening. Hello, thank you for coming back to the channel on such a gentle evening. Today, I will learn a little English with you very gently, about 3 familiar articles. A, and the. Don't worry, we don't study in a dry way, simply understand and feel. First of all are a and an. Both mean one, and used with countable, singular nouns. The most important thing to remember is, we hear the sound, not look at the words, or is used before words beginning with consonants. For example, a book, a cat, a student, or a university, although there is a U at the beginning, when read as Jew. So it's still a, and an is used before words starting with vowel sounds. For example, an apple, an orange, an egg, or an hour. The letter H is not pronounced, so we use an. Now let's talk about the. The is a definite article. It is used when the speaker and the listener everyone knows what they are talking about. For example, I saw a dog. I just saw a certain dog. But if I continue, the dog was very friendly. Then the dog is here, it's the dog just now. When to use and when not to use proverbs in English. When is it mandatory to use the? First of all, let's talk about cases where it is mandatory to use the article the. We use the when talking about a specific object that both the speaker and the listener know well. For example, the teacher is waiting outside. The listener already knows which teacher is being mentioned. We also use the when the noun has been mentioned before. For example, I bought a book yesterday. The book is very interesting. Next, the is used when talking about only things. For example, the sun, the moon, the earth. We must use the when the noun is clearly defined by a phrase behind it. For example, the book on the table, the girl in the photo. In addition, the is used with some special geographical names, such as rivers, oceans, mountain ranges and countries in plural form. For example, the Nile, the Pacific Ocean, the United States. Finally, the is always used in the comparative form. For example, the best student, the most important reason. When not to use a and the. Now, let's move on to cases where articles are not used. We don't use a and the when talking in general, with a generalized meaning. For example, dogs are friendly. We also do not use articles before uncountable nouns when talking in general. For example, I like music. She drinks water every day. Next, do not use articles before proper names, including names of people, cities and most countries. For example, Lan, Hanoi, Vietnam. In addition, do not use articles before subject, language, meals, holidays and days of the week. For example, study English, have breakfast, on Monday. Finally, when the noun already has possessive adjectives or denominative words, such as my, her, this, that, do not use more articles. For example, my book, this room. Conclusion. In short, the use of articles a and the in English is not based on sentiment, but on the degree of determination of the noun in the sentence. We use it or and when talking about an unknown object, mentioned for the first time, or when the listener does not know what that object is. We use the when the object has been identified, previously mentioned, is unique or clarified by context, or accompanying phrase. Conversely, we do not use articles when speaking in general, before uncountable nouns, proper nouns, or when nouns already have possessive or indicate words. Therefore, before using articles, learners should ask themselves, do listeners know exactly what object they are talking about? If the answer is yes, use the. If not, use a or an. And if you don't need to specify, don't use the article.